side of him. I think he's still that same Steve. He's still that. But now you're also seeing another side of him that he never had to show.
That's how he got it. Everybody thinks Steve Harvey's some stand-up man. No, he kissed the old girl who owned TV One. He used to kiss her. He had the radio show out here.
Comedians don't appreciate their jokes being stolen, and Steve Harvey has rubbed several comedians the wrong way. Well, it looks like Harvey has found himself in some trouble again.
Hey folks, you won't believe the buzz going around. It's like Hollywood is turning into one big reality show. The word on the street is that Hollywood is in this cleansing mode, trying to expose celebs who we all thought were golden, but surprise, they might be more like tarnished silver. So check this out. There's this rumor making the rounds that our man Steve Harvey might be in some serious hot water. I know, right? The guy who's been the face of all things classy and comedic might be on the brink of a major fall from grace. Apparently, a bunch of comedians are stepping forward to spill some serious beans on Steve Harvey. The rumor mill is churning, and it's saying that these allegations against Steve Harvey are not just your everyday petty stuff. They're supposedly massive, earth-shattering accusations. It's like a Hollywood version of Who Done It with Steve Harvey in the spotlight. But what exactly are these heinous crimes, and who are these comedians that are so determined to see Steve Harvey out of society? I mean, can you imagine the chaos this could unleash? As the grapevine spreads, we're all left hanging, eagerly waiting for the big reveal. Is it a case of mistaken identity? Or has the Steve Harvey we all thought we knew been hiding some dark secrets? Only time will tell, my friends. So grab your popcorn and let's get into it. Now, you won't believe the drama surrounding Steve Harvey. It's like a soap opera on steroids. So get this, it's not just his friendships taking a hit. It's like the guy's become public enemy number one. And it's not just his buddies or work pals who are giving him the cold shoulder. It's a widespread feeling of from both inside and outside the industry.
By the way, this is the same guy who rails against people who don't believe in his particular voodoo.
Right? Against gay people.
Against gay people, against Asians.
So Steve's in hot water for more than just your run-of-the-mill falling out with friends. It turns out the dude's got a laundry list of accusations against him, and it's juicier than a reality TV plot. You'd think a guy who's all about being a global patriarch would have a squeaky clean rise to fame, right? Well, think again. Rumor has it that Steve's journey to the top wasn't exactly the fairy tale we all imagined. There are whispers about him spinning tales and caught up in some not-so-honest moves to secure his spot. And that's not the worst of it. There are reports floating around that he might have snagged material from lesser-known comics. But wait, there's more. Steve, the relationship guru with the family man image, seems to be juggling a messy personal life. While he's parading around with his wife and family, he's also playing the part of a relationship expert, even wrote a book about it. You'd expect him to have the secret recipe for a perfect relationship tucked away, right? Surprise, surprise, that's not the case. And if that's not enough, it seems like Steve's got a knack for being different things to different people. It's like he's wearing different masks depending on the crowd. No wonder folks in the entertainment biz are giving him the side eye. The details keep piling up, and it's becoming clearer why Steve Harvey is becoming the not-so-favorite guy in Hollywood. Now the stakes are even higher as even more damaging news has come out about the comic in recent times. And these details seem to prove that Steve's actions have been a long time coming, some of which even happened against people he called his brothers in the industry. We're finally outing the celebrity host for who it looks like he truly is, according to the accounts of those people who have had direct interactions with him. So first off this list is none other than Mark Curry. You know how comedians are about their jokes, right? Well, it turns out Steve Harvey may have stepped on a few toes, or should I say punchlines. In the cutthroat world of showbiz, borrowing a little inspiration from your fellow celebs is one thing, but straight up joke theft? That's like stepping into a comedy minefield. Mark Curry's not mincing words. He's putting Steve Harvey on blast for allegedly swiping his material on a major stage. It's like he's calling out the man we all thought was the comedy king for not being as original as his brand makes him out to be. Now, we've all heard stories about the tangled web of drama in the entertainment biz, right? But here's the kicker. Steve Harvey isn't exactly a stranger to this kind of mess. He's been in the middle of similar problems before. And now, with Mark Curry adding his claims to the mix, it's like we're peeling back layers of Steve's success story that didn't quite make it into his best-selling book. Normally, when someone's throwing accusations around, it's because they're not exactly sitting on top of the success mountain, right? Well, that's not the case with Mark Curry, and that's what's keeping this whole Steve Harvey drama in the headlines. It's not your typical scenario. Mark Curry is not your average accuser. Back in the 90s, when becoming a star was like hitting the jackpot, Mark was living the dream. Started in stand-up, globe-trotted, packed-out comedy spots, the whole 9 yards. Now, he has taken aim at some big shots in the entertainment game, calling them out as nothing but joke-stealing frauds. And guess who's in the spotlight first? Steve Harvey. So, in a couple of recent chats, Mark spilled the beans, claiming that Steve Harvey straight up recycled his material for jokes on his shows. And this isn't a new Mark's been throwing shade about Steve lifting his jokes way back when on Harvey's NBC talk show. Alright, so there's this explosive video, and it's got Steve Harvey and Mark Curry tangled up in some serious comedy. Mark's claiming that Steve, who used to host Little Big Shots on NBC, swiped not one but two of his jokes. And get this, Mark says he already confronted Steve about it in the past, but the alleged joke thievery kept happening.
The thing with Steve Harvey is that he used my material on both his platforms.
Yeah.
After I talked to him, I saw him at Def Jam, I went up and talked to him, I said, man, you're using my material.
Now Mark, who's 62, spilled the tea to TMZ, saying that Steve jacked his Halloween bit, a personal story about growing up. But Steve wasn't having any of it. He straight up denied the accusations, saying Mark couldn't even name the supposedly stolen joke. Things got heated real quick, with Steve telling Mark to get a life and get a career. Steve went on a rant, saying he hasn't stolen a joke in 35 years, and dared Mark to name the joke he's talking about. He even threw in a grow-up man for good measure. But here's the kicker. Mark wasn't just making stuff up. The comedian came armed with receipts, proving his point and turning up the heat in this comedy feud.
Mark Curry says that you're still stealing his jokes.
Hey man, listen to me.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting sick of this right here.
Yeah.
Mark Curry need to grow up. Steve Harvey ain't been on stage since 2015.
Mark Curry took his with Steve Harvey to Instagram and dropped some serious receipts in a video that's now deleted. Basically, he called out Steve for allegedly stealing a bunch of jokes from him for his show. In this video, Mark compared an episode from his 90s sitcom Hanging with Mr. Cooper, where he talked about rocking a brown box as a UPS costume for Halloween. Surprise, surprise, Steve made the exact same joke in a 2015 episode of his show. And here's the kicker, other comedians like Cat Williams jumped in and had Mark's back. All right, let's rewind the clock to December 2008 when Steve Harvey and Cat Williams found themselves in the headlines. These two haven't exactly been best buds for over a decade, and there's a story behind it. So, Cat Williams decided to call out Steve Harvey right before a Christmas season show, and things got wild. Picture this. Jamie Foxx, who was a radio host at the time, throws shade into the mix by playing a clip of Williams dissing Steve Harvey. Cat on the phone goes on a rant saying, "I want to apologize for what's going to happen," hinting at their upcoming joint comedy gig. But here's the kicker. He drops the bomb, telling Steve that once he hits the stage, it's game over for him as the king of comedy. Steve Harvey then calls in, baffled by the whole situation. He tells Jamie and the crew, "I've always been cool with Cat," explaining that back in LA, he didn't even know who Cat Williams was. Imagine that, Steve Harvey asking, "Whoever Cat Williams is, call me." So, Cat Williams didn't hold back in a recent interview, laying into Steve Harvey. Cat straight up called out Steve for supposedly being jealous of Bernie Mac, spilling the tea on their years-long. According to Cat, Bernie felt Steve was trying to mess with his movie roles, even attempting to snatch a role in Ocean's 11, creating major tension. Cat went on to claim that Steve, in an appearance on Club Shay Shay, tried to act all nonchalant about not wanting to be a movie star. But according to Cat, Steve was secretly trying to compete with Bernie Mac for movie roles. And that's not all. Cat also accused Steve of stealing material from another comedian, Mark Curry, and allegedly lying about being homeless. In Cat's words, the same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he's the principal, wearing a suit and rocking a high-top fade, making all black men think he's got the best lineup in the business. And it's a man unit, not the real deal.
The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. I didn't want to be a movie star. This the same that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star.
Cat also called Steve out for supposedly lying about being homeless, saying, "That's my story. That's not his story." Steve Harvey was never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the stories. Cat didn't stop there, diving into Steve's marital history, claiming Steve said it was his first wife who got him where he is, then switched it up with the next wife who thinks like a man. Cat questioned Steve's credibility and authenticity, especially when it comes to claiming to be the king of comedy. He even spilled that he was offered the chance to be the 4th king of comedy, but turned it down because of how Steve allegedly treated Bernie Mac. Kat said, because the whole time Bernie was here, you were acting like you were funnier than him. You stop it. That man was funnier than all of y'all. Kat's not holding back, calling Steve out on his claims and keeping it real about how comedy works.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless.
Speaking of Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey, let's do a quick rundown about that. What's interesting is that Steve started out with a crew, doing the whole comedy thing and making people laugh on stage. But then he went solo and became this huge sensation with various TV shows. The catch? Along the way, it seems like he might have stepped on a few toes, including those of his comedy comrades. And we're not just talking about any group here. It's the original Kings of Comedy, featuring legends like Bernie Mac. Now, if you were around for some good laughs in the early 2000s, you probably caught wind of the original Kings of Comedy show. But if you weren't, let me tell you, whatever you think you know about Steve Harvey's story might just be the tip of the iceberg. There's more to this comedy tale than meets the eye. All right, so let me take you back 2 decades when Steve Harvey and his crew rocked the comedy world with the original Kings of Comedy tour, earning themselves a solid spot in the Comedy Hall of Fame. It was a game changer, breaking records and basically shaping the comedy scene we know today. The squad included D.L. Hewley, Cedric the Entertainer, and the one and only Bernie Mac. Each had their own style, diving into African-American life and those black-white differences. Now, Bernie Mac was the laugh riot of the bunch, delivering that hard-edged humor. Steve Harvey, on the other hand, went all in, getting aggressive with the audience, roasting folks in the front row about their hair, clothes, and career choices. But here's the twist. Even though Bernie was Steve closed the show. Now the plot thickens. It seems Steve might have been a tad jealous of Bernie's approach. Even Steve admitted he felt a bit threatened by Bernie Mac, sparking some that lasted for years. At least that's the latest scoop from one of the band members spilling the beans to the world. Back in the days of the original Kings of Comedy tour, there were whispers about some tension between Steve Harvey and the late Bernie Mac. Now the cat's out of the bag, and Cedric the Entertainer, who was part of the crew along with D.L. Hewley, has spilled the beans. Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac? Yeah, they weren't exactly best buds. Back in 2003, Bernie Mac told GQ magazine that Harvey was giving off some jealous vibes and trying to mess with his chances at landing certain movie roles. Steve opened up about the accusations in a 2010 interview, admitting he was hurt by Bernie's words.
This the same that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star.
All right, so Cat Williams isn't the only one who's had an on-air tiff with Steve Harvey. Recently, Monique turned the tables during her appearance on Steve's show, making it clear that she wasn't there just to be in the hot seat. Monique, with her comedic charm, took charge of the show and spilled some industry tea involving her and the host. She didn't hold back, revealing how she felt like she got thrown under the bus for speaking her truth. But it wasn't just Steve Harvey catching heat on air. Monique threw shade at a couple of other big names in the industry, mentioning folks like OPR Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Lee Daniels, and even her brother Steve. She made it clear she wasn't backing down and that she wasn't in the wrong. So, a while back on Steve's show, Monique dropped some truth bombs about her struggles in Hollywood. The Oscar winner revealed how she got labeled as difficult and blackballed in the industry because she dared to ask for more pay during the Oscar publicity campaign for Precious in 2009. She didn't hold back, saying, "I said no to some very powerful people." For context, back in 2009, Monique had a plan to do a press tour for the movie Precious, co-produced by OPR and Tyler Perry. They wanted to ride the wave of her Oscar nomination buzz, but here's the kicker. They weren't planning to pay her for the tour, and she was already drained from filming. Monique decided to skip the tour and take a breather with her family. Seemed like a straightforward call, and everyone seemed cool with it. She said, "OPR, I'm doing a talk show, I'm doing a comedy tour, I have a husband and I have babies, I have a little bit of downtime, and I'm going to take advantage of it. So I'm not going anywhere because I'm not obligated to go anywhere. I've done my part." So we mutually agreed to disagree. That was it. Next thing I know, I am considered difficult and hard to work with. Fast forward a few weeks and bam! Media stories start popping up, painting Monique as difficult to work with. Suddenly, no one wanted to cast her, despite her winning an Oscar for her role in Precious. Imagine seeing all your hard work go down the drain. Monique started putting 2 and 2 together, realizing someone was out to get her. In a recent chat with The Hollywood Reporter, she spilled the beans that Precious director Lee Daniels admitted she got blackballed for not playing the game. Monique's even called out OPR and Tyler Perry, asking for an apology that, as far as we know, is still MIA. A few months after the press tour mess, Monique spilled the beans on Comedy Central about how OPR invited Monique's brother Gerald and her parents to her show. Here's the backstory. Monique's brother aided her when she was 7 to 11, and she had been open about it in a 2008 interview with Essence. Monique confided in OPR about her strained relationship with her parents due to the A, and OPR seemed understanding. Monique said she was cool with OPR inviting Gerald but didn't want to be part of it. Fast forward to the taping, and Monique was blindsided seeing commercials featuring her family. OPR had gone back on her word, pretending to be caring. Monique demanded an apology, but OPR offered zilch. No private, no public apology, nothing.
Do with it. She said, if you don't want me to have your brother on the show, I will cancel the show. No show will happen, but I wanted to call you up to see how you felt first. Now I begin to see commercials with my brother, my mother, my father, and my other brother.
In 2018, Monique stirred the pot again, proposing a Netflix boycott because they didn't offer her the same pay as other big-name comedians like Chris Rock and Amy Schumer for a stand-up special. And guess who she called out for not having her back? Yep, Steve Harvey. She confronted him about a comment he made saying she had burned too many bridges, and she didn't hold back on how hurt she was. But surprise, surprise, Steve didn't seem to care much about Mo's feelings. It left a lot of people surprised because the Steve Harvey they saw on TV didn't match up with this real-life drama. And as it turns out, that was just the beginning, with Steve stirring up controversies one after another throughout his time in the limelight. So, Steve Harvey's been basking in the limelight for ages, winning over not just co-workers and industry folks, but the whole public. He was the morning show guy, and even now, he's a face you'd recognize in almost any room. But turns out, the sweet image he puts on screen isn't the real deal. Behind the scenes, he's apparently quite a pain to work with, and folks have had enough. It's not just a little workplace annoyance either. Reports spill the beans on a memo Steve sent to his staffers that's made people see a whole different side of him. Let's just say, the news about his work relationships is raising some eyebrows, and not in a good way. Sometimes it's better not to know the nitty-gritty details, and this might be one of those times. But hey, we're here to spill all the juicy details. So, Steve Harvey dropped a memo that pretty much shattered any niceness pretense, drawing a clear line between himself and his coworkers, making it seem like they were beneath him. In this memo, he straight up said, "My security team will stop everyone from standing at my door who have the intent to see or speak to me. I want all the ambushing to stop now." He laid it out even for the TV staff, saying they must schedule an appointment and not even think about trying to chat with him in the hallway. No impromptu meetings, folks. It's all about appointments now. And get this, he warned them not to walk with him. Now, when this memo hit the headlines, did Steve apologize or try to smooth things over? Nope. Instead, he doubled down on his words. In response, he said, "I could not find a way to walk from the stage to my dressing room, to sit in my makeup chair, to walk from my dressing room to the stage, or to just sit and have lunch without somebody just walking in." He justified the memo by claiming people were taking advantage of his open-door policy. So there you have it. No apologies, just a, "you folks took advantage of my niceness" vibe. Most people might want to find reason in Steve's perspective on this subject for not wanting to talk to the people he works with. But it's not like this is the first time he's been a bit of a jerk and expected everyone to just nod along. Despite his questionable takes and comedy leaning heavily on gender stereotypes, he likes to play the relationship expert, handing out advice left and right. But here's the kicker. His own love life is a hot mess. Steve is rocking his third marriage. And get this, his third wife was once the mistress to his second wife. And as if that weren't enough, he's allegedly been a repeat offender in the cheating department. And guess what? He doesn't seem to see what the big deal is. Oh no, he tried to justify it, but here's the twist. According to Steve, men can cheat because there are plenty of women ready to jump into their arms. Yeah, it's as cringeworthy as it sounds. If you connect the dots, it seems like Steve might be living by these very words, especially considering his history with marriages. All right, let's rewind to 1981 when Steve Harvey was still hustling to make a name for himself. He tied the knot with Marcia Harvey, but things took a rocky turn. As Steve worked on his comedy career, rumors flew about him cheating on Marcia and leaving her while she was expecting their third child. The couple eventually divorced in 1994. Marcia, however, kept things low-key and focused on her own life, even publishing a few books. Then, in 1996, Steve went down the aisle again, this time with Mary Shackelford, a makeup artist. The rumor mill hinted that their relationship might have started while Steve was still married to Marcia. Talk about a serial cheat. Steve and Mary's marriage lasted for 9 years before they called it quits in 2006. Mary, usually tight-lipped, stumbled upon a private letter from Steve's mistress, causing quite the stir. She spilled the beans in a 2017 interview, claiming Steve cheated on her multiple times, even with his current wife, Marjorie, noticing a pattern. Adding fuel to the fire, Mary accused Steve of physical abuse during their marriage, which Steve vehemently denied. In 2017, Mary leveled various accusations against the famous TV personality, including emotional distress caused by his interference in her custody dispute. She sought a hefty $60 million in damages, but the case was eventually tossed out. So, after Mary's accusations caused quite a stir, the media jumped on the bandwagon, stirring up a whole lot of trouble among Steve Harvey's fan base. People were split. Some defended Harvey, questioning Mary's motives, while others were disappointed and even angry at the renowned TV host. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Steve Harvey himself addressed the charges, slamming the lawsuit as ridiculous and denying all the claims made against him. He went on to suggest that he believed the lawsuit was just a ploy to squeeze money out of him. But hold on, the alleged cheating saga doesn't end there. Recently, Steve and his current wife, Marjorie Harvey, found themselves in the midst of another scandal. Podcaster Tasha K spilled the tea on Instagram, claiming that Steve was allegedly cheating on Marjorie with his private chef, the so-called green-eyed. This chef had been spotted everywhere with Steve, and Tasha accused him of being unfaithful in his marriage to Marjorie. Breaking away from years of keeping their relationship out of the gossip mill, Steve Harvey, the TV host and comedian, is now facing allegations of infidelity with his private chef. Tasha K spilled the beans on her podcast, Unwind with Tasha K, stating that she got wind of information about the 66-year-old entertainer and his beautiful private chef, who was allegedly hired as his vegan mistress.
I had a green-eyed. She's been seen everywhere with Steve.
Whoa, can we just take a minute to process the craziness surrounding Steve Harvey? I mean, these allegations are next level nuts, right? It's no wonder people are talking about throwing him behind bars. If this stuff is for real, it's a major bummer, because Steve's been a favorite for so many. Now, he might be on the fast track to becoming the world's most hated dude. But I'm curious, what's your take on all this drama? Do you think the allegations hold water, and is Steve Harvey about to trade his suits for prison stripes? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this discussion rolling. Catch you in the next video.